Hello everyone, welcome back to Dragon Age Inquisition. In the last video we hit Crestwood and acquired the Inquisitor's Amulet of Power to round out the last of the items we needed to prep this team build and turn the Inquisitor into a rogue tank. Now we need to look toward our gear, meaning weapons and armor. There are some very good pieces out there to find, but 90% of them can be beaten by crafted gear, and the few uncrafted pieces that are worth using are almost entirely relegated to the ends of the DLC arcs. That means we'll be crafting. I started crafting early upon reaching Haven at the beginning of the game, and then again when we reach Skyhold, but these are just interim pieces that are going to get replaced as the game goes on. Now it's time for the next phase of that. I only ever really made what I needed. I didn't outfit the whole team, and for the most part I didn't use any Fade-Touched Mastercrafts, so there's no special abilities on any of these pieces. What I'm going to do now is search for materials to make Tier 3 versions of what I eventually want to use in the endgame. A test run, if you will. Tier 4 is the strongest, but there's a finite amount of most of those materials, so you don't test with Tier 4, because if it doesn't work, you just wasted a chunk of your strongest materials, and you can't replace them. There is an exception to this, and we'll talk about that later. For the most part, you test with Tier 3, and if it works, you farm the Fade-Touched again, which is so much fun. And then you remake whatever pieces worked as Tier 4 so that they're as strong as you can be. Now, you can buy a large amount of Tier 3 materials from the Black Emporium and from some of the DLC merchants, so for the most part you don't have to find them. And the rifts in the Frost Basin of the Jaws of Hakon drop stacks of certain Tier 3 materials and also Fade-Touched versions of those materials, along with stacks, small stacks of Veil Quartz, which is a Tier 4 metal that was added with the DLC. And again, we'll come back to that later. Side note, we're headed to the Hissing Wastes, which is on the Orlais side of the map, and it's on the far west. It's the Stop the Venatori activity, but I didn't realize that for a moment, which is why you see me skipping around the map looking for it. That's where we're going to find the first Fade-Touched material that we're looking for. For the sake of all our sanities, I'm going to speed up the exploration because this zone is so big it takes forever to run all over it. So Fade-Touched are a special variant of regular materials. Every Fade-Touch has two possible effects on it. And then within those groups, there's also, just like all the regular materials, they have tiers 1 through 3. Tier 1 being the weakest, tier 3 being the strongest. So as the tiers go up, the effect on the Fade-Touched material gets stronger. The top tier 3 options which I've used in excess across multiple playthroughs are Fade-Touched Silverite, which has a variation that gives guard with every hit, so it turns almost every character into a tank to a varying degree and makes them much harder to kill. Fade-Touched Snuffler Skin, which gives 1% of the damage you deal as health. The third and final one, and probably everybody's favorite, is the Fade-Touched Plush Faustian Velvet, which has a 10% chance to proc Hidden Blades, which is a rogue talent from the Assassin Specialization tree. It deals insane damage, and when you craft something with that effect for every companion, everything dies. It's really awesome.
Impossible, but there you go.
My plan for this playthrough was to try Fade-Touched bonuses that I don't normally use, so I'm not going to be throwing Plush Faustian Velvet on all my characters. I'm more than likely not going to be using the Fade-Touched Silverite for guard. For my Inquisitor, my plan is to use Fade-Touched Lurker or Trusket Hide, which has Veil Smash. It's an AoE that knocks enemies around my target to the ground, so it's going to be really good for crowd control. The other one that I want to use is going to be Fade-Touched Neverite, which is again going to be for crowd control. It's an AoE that pulls enemies towards its center, which would be my target, so it's going to pull all the enemies closer, and then the Veil Smash will knock them all down. And then the rogue has several attacks that are AoE attacks, so it's going to be easier to deal with the groups. And with everything being pulled closer, the AoE that's going to proc from Andraste's Sacrifice to taunt everything is going to work better.
Why come out here
For other characters, I want to use Fade-Touched Infused Vyrantium Samite. I want to put that on Vivian, Dorian, and Cole. It procs Mind Blast, which is the mage spell that does an AoE stun and diminishes aggro. That'll help keep the enemies focused on my rogue and leaving the squishier targets alone. Also on the list of Fade-Touched I want to farm is Fade-Touched Stormheart, which procs Shield Bash to deal with enemy guard, and Fade-Touch Imperial Vestment Cotton, which procs Walking Bomb. Since I need the Mind Blast Fade-Touch for 3 companions, I'm going after that first. Fade-Touch Infused Vyrantium Samite drops from Venatori enemies scattered across the Hissing Wastes, which is a gigantic desert zone. This is really going to take forever. This would also be a great time to break out that horse that you got in the hinterlands and probably really haven't used very much, assuming you didn't do what I'm just realizing that I did and never got the horse. That. The enemies here are a little stronger than the ones that we've been fighting in the hinterlands, and it's becoming apparent that the current skill setup I'm using for the rogue tank isn't working very well, so I'm going to be changing it soon. Also, I just remembered that unlike the loot from enemies, loot from the rifts never goes away. If you leave the zone and return without having picked up the loot, it's still going to be there. And happily, if you leave an item in the loot sack, when you leave the zone and come back, the loot will have respawned and you can loot it again. And this is also going to re-randomize any items in there that are in the loot. So if there's a ring in the loot, but it's not a ring that you like, if you leave it there, leave the zone and come back, it will randomize and then maybe come back as a ring that you want to use. This isn't so much of a big deal when you're on your umpteenth playthrough, but on the first playthroughs where you're looking for specific items and you want to see how they work, this can be a good little trick. This is also especially handy when it comes to the Jaws of Hakon DLC. The rifts in that zone drop a ton of stuff, not just 1 or 2 items, they drop like 8 or 9 items. They drop high-end weapons that you can sell, they drop stacks of tier 3 crafting materials, including Fade-Touch versions of those crafting materials, and they also drop tier 4 Veil Quartz, which is the metal crafting material that came with the DLC. And since you can loot everything, leave an item, leave the zone, and then go back and loot it again, that means you can re-loot the Veil Quartz over and over again. So it gives you an inexhaustible quantity of tier 4 metal, which is something that you couldn't do or couldn't get before the DLC came out. All the tier 4 used to be a finite quantity, and now there's unlimited tier 4 metal. The leather and the cloth is still a finite amount from dragon kills and from certain merchants that you can buy from, but the metal you can get as much of it as you want. There's some Venatori. No joy. Let's look for some more.
rather live in a land where mages aren't herded into cages like dogs.
Which land is that? The one where mages are feared and despised as tyrants?
I'm the first to admit magisters aren't perfect, but they've also done great things. They're allowed to.
Monstrous things as well. Or you wouldn't be here, would you?
Locking people into cages isn't the answer.
Naturally. First we execute those who will not submit. Then we deal with the rest. Shall we have a look around? Shall we make camp or move on? Inquisitor, if you have a moment.
What is it?
Could prove useful, sir.
This is a neat little quest, a great one for first playthroughs. There are 4 areas around the zone that are like this. Each one tells part of a tale of some ancient dwarven rulers, a father and his 2 sons. Once you complete all 4, you gain access to a special cache, which is at the far end of the zone, guarded by the zone's dragon. And what you have to do in these little areas is you have to use the Veilfire to light the torches behind the story pieces, and you have to do it in the proper order. You're putting the story pieces in sequence. If you do it wrong, enemies will spawn. You have to kill them and then try again.
That wasn't the right solution.
They were dwarves. They think they still are. They sound like dust tastes.
Something for our efforts.
A burial chamber, I think.
I don't know why, but sometimes enemies in this zone will randomly take damage as you're running around and they'll turn hostile.
drying out from the inside.
hiding everywhere in this desert?
Yes. Their god wants them to. And
That
they
crevice
want
there is an
heavy-
important landmark, especially on first playthroughs. There's a merchant at the midpoint who sells almost all of the non-DLC high-end armor and weapon schematics, so you'll be coming here a lot.
It is so dry, my fingertips are peeling.
Don't hurt me, please.
I'm not here to hurt you.
Oh, thank you, Rosé. It was good to do that.
last of them here. This would make a good look. Post.
We've been scouting region, Your Worship. I saw the flight here. They might use it. Safe travels.
stink like them.
It's rather amusing, Dorian.
Your outfit. I'll give you that.
The way you sneer at southerners, pretending to be a shark from a land of sharks. But you're not a shark, and never will be, darling. They knew it, just as you do.
I could have pretended. Wore fancy clothes, convinced everyone I'm something I'm not. Then I could take a position at court, haul myself out, and desperately hope no one realizes what a fool I am.
Such snapping for a fish without teeth.
He's going to jail. Charge for mission.
My dear Inquisitor, whatever is the issue? We're having a perfectly civil conversation.
It's true. I've heard worse from our gardener back home.
This must have been the Venatori's main camp.
To complete this quest, I
can't
needed
do
to
what they
loot the
came
boss's
for.
corpse,
We
but I
stopped
didn't
them.
realize that for a
Come
minute,
on.
so we'll be
We
running
should
back
still
over
find
here
what they were
shortly.
after.
You see, now the game's just being mean. The Venatori here dropped 3 different types of cloth, and they finally managed to drop a Fade-Touched variant, but it's not of the cloth that I need. We're looking for Infused Vyrantium Samite.
Fair weather's nice. Presume you know what people say of Peripheus, Dorian.
Darkspawn, madman, relic of unwanted past, don't keep me in suspense.
They will say he is the Vinter.
No.
I'm aware you...
I'm not here on behalf of my nation's reputation, Vivian. I'm here to do what is right.
If only more of your countrymen felt as you do.
The Venatori want these tombs. Let's see if they found another way in.
So I just realized I have enough perk points to trigger the Power for a Price War Table mission. This appears after you reach 6 perks, I believe, but it might be 7. Either way, I've got enough. And it brings an influence vendor to Skyhold. This merchant sells books that increase your influence. So if you have enough money, you can buy influence and then raise up the influence that you've got, get all the perks, and then spend them at the war table. And there's an exploit that I'm about to show you that will help you do that.
Worship.
Power for a Price is on the Ferelden side of the table, right here. And we're going to cheat the system clock to make it instant.
Inquisitor.
Now, before we go to the merchant to make this exploit, you're going to need around 70,000. I actually think it's less than that, but I've never verified the minimum, especially since the storage box basically prints money. So what I'm doing now is emptying the box to speed up the duplication process. This is the item I'm going to duplicate. Here we go. Remember, to dupe an item, all you have to do is highlight the item and push X and O at the same time. Then open the box again and repeat. If you mess up and just withdraw the item without duplicating it, all you have to do is put it back in and try again. Okay, so we've got 67,000. That should be enough. Here's the merchant. It's always a good idea to save, just in case you mess up. Or in my case, in case you don't bring enough money. 67,000 was not enough money to do the exploit, so I reloaded the save, sold a few more belts, and now I have 78,000. So this merchant sells all these books in stacks of 10, and all of them will increase your influence. If you were to buy them to max out your influence, you would spend a few 100,000 coins to do that. And just, even if you were to use the duplication glitch to do that, it would take you forever because you can't sell that many items to the same merchant. You'd have to go all over to sell everything. So we're not going to do that. In fact, we only care about one stack of 10. So the way this works is, step 1, buy 9 of the 10 and then push circle to exit and watch your influence jump. Step 2, open the store again, buy the 10th book from the stack, but don't exit the store. Step 3, push R2 and switch from buy to sell and sell back all 10 books. Don't exit the store. Those 9 books that you initially bought, that you just back, are now in the buyback section instead of in the regular purchase section because we left the store after that first purchase. And because they're in the buyback section, they're going to be at the same price that he just bought them from you rather than the price that he actually sells them for. So it's significantly less. Now you push L2 to switch back to buy, and then R1 to move to the buyback section and rebuy those 9 books at the discounted price that you just sold them for. Exit the store and watch your influence jump again. At this point, because of the exploit, you aren't really spending any more money. You're going to buy stuff, you're going to sell stuff, but your money is going to keep dropping and coming back and dropping and coming back. It's only that initial purchase right at step 1 that costs anything. After that, everything just keeps going back and forth and your power keeps going up for free. From this point, you just go back to step 2. Open the store again, buy the 10th book, don't exit the store, push R2 to switch from buy to sell the 10 books back, don't exit the store, switch back to buy, then move over to buy back and buy the 9 books back again. Now exit the store. And you just repeat that from step 2 to step 4 until you reach the maximum level of influence, which is 20. Once you're at 20, I mean, you can keep doing the exploit if you want, but as you can see, the books don't do anything for you. So once you hit 20, you can sell them back one final time, and you're done. After everything, the whole exploit costs about 52,000. but you've now maxed out your influence and have a stack of perk points to spend at the war table. And you didn't have to wait to the end of the game to do that. It's also worth noting, because I forgot at the time and didn't remember until it was too late, that I'm pretty sure that additional perks become available for purchase later in the game, ones that you can't see right now. And after you capture a certain amount of keeps or a certain amount of landmarks or something to that effect, they'll pop up. So it's worth saving a couple points just in case you want to see if those perks are something that you want to buy. If it's your first playthrough, you may want to buy the schematic perks. Since I've done many playthroughs, I've already got all of the schematics, so I don't need to do that. I'm going to skip them. Josephine's merchant perks are also key for a first playthrough because you need to buy so much, and the rare stocks perk will add additional schematics and gear to existing merchants, like the one in the Hissing Wastes that sells a lot of the top end schematics. Before I go back to the Hissing Wastes, I'm going to grab my horse from the hinterlands. Gruffalo quest is so buggy. It's still saying that it's right here because it froze in the water there, if you remember from an earlier video, but I don't see it. Alright, let's get the horse.
Fancy trying out one of my courses?
Now back to farming.
To report, sir.
Yeah.
With a mount, you don't take any falling damage.
Whoa.
That schematics merchant that I mentioned is right here. They've left their dog to keep an eye on the shop.
Goodbye.
Alright, so I'm going to speed up the rest of the video. All that searching, and no Fade-Touched Infused Vyrantium Samite. So I changed my tactic. Just east of this camp is one of the possible random spawn points for the Venatori camps. So what I did is save the game right there, and then I just proceeded to save load. A lot. Like way too much if I'm being honest. 4 out of 5 times, the Venatori spawned on reload. I wiped them out and then looted. Over the course of what felt like an eternity, they eventually dropped every possible Fade-Touched material that they can drop, except for the one that I wanted. And mostly they dropped Dwarven Cups and Dwarven Relics in a quantity that's enough to choke an Archdemon. It was a long, soul-crushing process, and I really hope that if you try this, it doesn't happen that way for you. But so pray to the random number god. I stayed far longer than I should have to do that, and just before my brain turned to jelly, I said, okay, it's time to farm something else. But everything else I need to farm is in more difficult zones, and as I mentioned, it was clear from this zone that my current build isn't working. So when we come back, I'll be retooling, and we'll be going out to farm some other Fade-Touched materials, and hopefully we'll have better luck with drops. See you next time.